The audio with everybody. If you are joining me now and can see over there, you got Mary Beth. Oh, over there, you got Mary Beth. I'm Aaron King. Let me know if the audio is okay. So I'm going to go with a quick sync check. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And we have already conversations going on between Robert Chandler, Colin, and David. Hey, guys. Hey, everybody. Welcome in. This is an impromptu discussion about Aurora Photography. So I'm sure that this is what you woke up this morning saying you need to know more about. Obviously, this is where you want to be. So thanks for joining me. And Mary Beth, thanks for joining us. Let's check your audio as well while we're in here. Audio is out. Audio is solid on my side. So I wonder why it would say the audio is out. Let's see. So as I'm talking, I see no signs that the audio would be out. Everything shows good there. So hopefully, oh, now you are synced. Out was out of sync, not out of actually hearing us. Okay. I was thinking, they can't even hear us. It's Aaron Martinez.
Yeah, like what settings did you hit?
I know. As I was making Mary Beth much more loud than our Milky Way Wednesday, for those of you who are in the guild, you saw Mary Beth hanging out with me and the audio was terrible. But now I fixed it. You'll watch as long as you can from work, Aaron. Awesome. So Martinez is with us from work.
Oh, hi.
A lot of you are working right now, except I suppose for Colin and Rob that are out there in the UK, and they're in the evening times. David here, Jim B. I was hoping to wake up and have electricity. Been out for 6 days.
Oh, that's no good.
Gosh. That's right. I think I saw something that Jim was saying. He's ready to get back and do something and came back to his complete electricity being out in his home. Oh, wow. You're out there in, was it the Buffalo area of New York or New Jersey? New Jersey.
Oh, yeah, that's right. The East Coast got hit pretty hard.
Yeah, with the hurricane that came through, or the storm, I suppose it was at that point. Geez, so looks like we're pretty decently synced and we're great on the audio. So let's go back in and get this rolling. Hey, welcome in. This is Aaron King. This is Aaron King. This man is Aaron King for Photog Adventures. Hey, everybody. Today we're going to talk about Aurora photography, something that I don't do. In fact, I did it for the first time ever at the Faroe Islands and had an awesome time. The time with Kathy and Rhonda where we were high-fiving. Well, Rhonda and Kathy, I don't think we ever high-fived each other. We're all our cameras and so focused on getting the shot, getting the time-lapse running, and then walking around between us. And also, Kathy kept telling Rhonda and I not to move back and forth too much. So that was our experience with Aurora. And so in order to make sure that there's more experience with Aurora, I bring in my friend here, MaryBeth Kiczenski. She hates it when I say this, but she's a master Aurora photographer. Hey, MaryBeth.
Hi, how are you?
You hate it. You can't stand it, huh?
Well, you know.
Well, you have images that will prove your masterhood right here. I'm going to start off with those. And what we're going to do today is talk about these images and the locations that she was at, how she captured it. We're going to distill, basically, Mary Beth, I want you to distill for us the steps that are different for you. From a Milky Way photographer perspective into Aurora, what do you change? And in the tips of giving us your settings, basic setup, what you're looking for, how you get your focus, if it's any different with anything else. What you do, your process is going to guide us. When we get out there now with Aurora season being more intense, as you guys know Lofoten, you guys know Iceland, you know Canada, those 3 locations being high enough north like Robert in the UK, you're looking at only astro twilight as the darkest part of your night, and you never get into full darkness. So the real season for Aurora is the entire year. It all depends on what's happening with the solar flare, but the situation of seeing them really well needs full darkness. And so the Aurora season kind of begins August through, April? Is that when it is?
Something like that.
So we're
depending
getting
on
right in.
Latitude.
It just kind of depends on where you are. So we're going right into the Aurora season, and let's get started. Let's do this well, and let's get people rolling. So just to get you guys a little bit of taste of what you're about to experience, here's a shot from Mary Beth. Now, Mary Beth, you are going to, let's see, right now I'm going to share the screen so Mary Beth can see what I'm looking at. But she's not going to be visible for the group, so you guys are only going to see tiny window Mary Beth for a little while. But that'll be okay, as long as she can see which image I'm looking at. So yes. I have this one first. Where was this? And tell us about this situation.
Okay.
As far as settings and everything, if they fit into the story, bring them up. But we're going to go and summarize everything nice and neat at the end of all these images.
Okay. So this particular shot it's actually almost exactly a year ago. This was the solar, I guess there was a storm that happened over Labor Day weekend. And this was taken at Hurricane River in Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore. So it's essentially overlooking Lake Superior.
To put into perspective
really
that real quick, I'm going to show you guys. Oh, I have that window all over the place. Where is it? It had moved entirely. I think it's this one, or maybe it's this one. Oh, yeah.
So this particular shot it's actually almost exactly a year ago. This was the solar. I guess there was
you're right.
A storm that happened over Labor Day
weekend. That's my bad. I was wondering why you were going into it already. I'm like, why is she talking about this? Right? I'm just trying to show a map. I can hear
myself. This is weird.
I was just showing a map, and you kept talking about it. And I'm like, keep going. Yeah. That's awesome. Why not? No, that was you 30 seconds ago over on this video feed. I accidentally hit the audio back when I showed it for a second. So this area you're talking about, Painted Rocks, that's up here. Pictured Rocks. Is it up here by Miners Beach?
Yep. Yeah, that's actually from Miners Beach and then all the way to Grand Marais, which you go
up there.
Yep, that's all Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore.
So you were here looking north over Lake Superior. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So it's a great location because you have nothing in your way. Absolutely nothing, just Lake Superior. Yeah. So even on your weaker storms, like KP3-ish level, you should be able to see something over the lake. This was a G2.
So that's why this is so flat. That's Lake Superior we're looking at it. You can't even see anything on the other end of the shoreline. It's just water to the horizon.
Yep.
And you're saying it was a G2?
This was a G2 level event. So what this was shot wide angle at 14 millimeter, and you can see how the Aurora actually is filling up the entire frame.
Yeah.
That's the best display I've ever personally seen, but I wasn't into this when we were in more of those solar maximum level, like, where we got like solar flares that really sparked things off. So I'm waiting for that day to like see something really epic. But this was great. I mean, it was extending up far enough where it was almost overhead, which is pretty insane for the latitude that's at, which is like 46. So I'll take that.
I'm going to try and stretch this window and make you big. Oh, I can't unless I pin you. I'm going to pin the video, and then I'm going to stretch this huge. All right, MaryBeth, now that you're larger, you've mentioned a G class, a G level. I understand KP levels. Tell us a little bit quickly for the beginners on those setting or those ranges that you measure the value of these Aurora.
So like your KP, that's kind of trying to think of the easiest way to describe it. It's like the amount of energy that's kind of pent up in the magnetosphere. So it starts at like KP 0 and then goes up to 9. But once you hit KP 5, the classification changes to like G1 or G2, indicating a geomagnetic storm. The difference is because these storms can interfere with things up in space, like satellites and communications. So that's important for people that are monitoring this to watch the satellites. So because of the interference. But like your lower KP level stuff typically doesn't affect things.
Okay. And so when you're thinking about KP5, KP6, that's when it's visible for us in Northern America typically because it's far enough down.
You'll get the better displays like this. I've seen it at KP3.
Oh, you've seen it even at KP3. Awesome.
Yeah. But it's not like this, like what you're seeing here. It'll be more like on the horizon, but you can still see stuff.
So low horizon, green, maybe some red pink curtain, but you're not going to see as much up in the frame at the top of your frame above you. When you're saying a G level, then is it related in any way to the KPs?
Oh, yeah. Like a G1 level event is a KP5.
Oh, okay.
And then G2 is like KP6.
And what did you say the G was for this image?
This was a 2.
This was a 2. This is just a G2. G2. I mean, we're talking a quick summary too. Is that the sun Every 11 years goes through a cycle where it goes to a solar maximum and then spends 11 years going down to a solar minimum. Then around 11 years going back to solar maximum. It's kind of like it's breathing, this heartbeat breathing as it's going bigger and smaller on activity for solar flares and then high on activity. In fact, there's a really neat video that I should pull up in the middle of this where I show the sun. It's a time lapse that I think NASA did over 10 years where it shows the impact of the activity on the solar surface versus very low activity versus very high activity. You can see what it means by being in a solar maximum. So you're talking G2 event and a solar minimum time frame.
Correct.
It can be even more incredible than this.
Yeah, it's see what caused this was something called a coronal hole. Coronal holes are more apparent in the solar minimum cycles. It's just like the sunspots are a thing, coronal holes are another thing. Those typically show up in the minimum cycles.
Okay. And so you can't predict those, but you do know when they're happening. And so you knew that something like this was going on and you took off and made sure.
Actually, in a weird sort of way, having a persistent coronal hole works in your favor in terms of predicting them. Because like this one that opened up, it lasted almost all year last year. It started out in January and then it peaked in July and August and then it started to wane. But every month around like the end of the month, you just go up north and you'd see something because it was like that regular.
Oh, nice. Okay, so all year, and now right now it's currently not in a coronal hole?
No, it's actually been pretty quiet. There are a couple sunspots have peaked or shown up, indicating that we are actually going into the next solar maximum cycle.
Okay.
So that has sparked a few disturbances. Like I got some pictures of the comet with a pretty weak aurora on the horizon, but that was from a solar flare. So it's starting to come back alive.
Sweet. So the great news, everybody, is that now as we're going into our technically aurora season for those northern latitudes, we are going to also be entering into more activity every year for the next 11 years. So that is awesome. Now I'm hanging out on this image too much. Let's go to the next one. Right here is a unique situation where it's Milky Way plus not Aurora, but it's this Steve. You don't have to explain the entire thing that a Steve is, but it's unique, huh?
Yeah, it is. It was really this whole weekend was just insane because it was just like everything just happened at one time. This is also Hurricane River. The beach area is just looking a different direction.
Let's see if it's to the left of me. Nope. Is it to the right of me? Here we go. So you're saying it's up here in the Painted Rocks National Lakeshore?
Yeah, it's still in Pictured Rocks, yep.
Oh, painted. I keep saying painted. Pictured. Cool. This is the Upper Peninsula for those who haven't you didn't realize that. Chicago O'Hare Airport Drive right up there is only going to be about, well, that was the whole trip all the way to Kitschy.
Yeah, it's about 6 hours to Marquette. It's actually not bad.
The UP, all of this area entirely in, dark skies, like completely dark skies. And you have not just boring horizons of just water, which are amazing because they're reflecting of the color. You've also got really cool tree lines and rocks to play around with. We don't have one of your waterfall images. Where is your waterfall image at?
Oh, the more recent one was at Bond Falls.
Is that up in the UP or in a different state?
Yeah, that's in the UP too.
Ooh, okay. Okay, well,
actually, waterfalls are like a good backup plan in case everything falls apart because there's like, I think 200 waterfalls up there.
Oh, only 200? Okay.
Yeah, so there's some are much, much bigger than others, but...
Well, then let's talk about this element, because those of you who are thinking about coming out there to the UP, if you go for Aurora and you say you don't have a great Aurora night, nothing's really exciting, you still have, I mean, at that time of year too, what time of year was this guy, December?
This was December.
And we're going to go out in November, and so you're going to see Orion, the constellation Orion, going up above the horizon and up high in the sky, and I love this image. Where are you at?
Yeah, that's called Kitch Itty Kippy, and it's it literally translates to Big Spring.
Okay.
But it's a really unique spot because it's a freshwater spring that is always being fed from the groundwater. So it stays about 45 degrees all year, and it's always like crystal clear like this. I've never been there once where even with the breeze and the trees, which you can see from the motion up top,
Yeah.
those branches.
Yeah, a
It
little
just
bit of
keeps
fuzziness.
the water like it doesn't reach there for some reason.
You're seeing right
So
through the water right here. It's
yeah, you
amazingly
just see
still.
right through it. It's a really unique spot. I'm looking forward to showing people this spot because it's one of my favorites.
And also, like you told me yesterday, we were talking about this. The snow just makes it even a little more interesting, a little more
Yeah.
beautiful. Let's
So I'm
go.
kind of hoping November is hit or miss. You could either have a lot of snow up there or like none at all. So I'm gonna hope for some snow because it just adds to it.
So going through, there's a Steve. Here's another Aurora with rocks, another Aurora with the water. I
Yep.
personally love this image. I love the softness and reflectiveness. The all the water highlights of reflection as well as color is fantastic right here. Did you build the cairn that is right here?
I didn't. That somebody else did. I just
Okay.
left it there.
So when I look at this image, I'm going to leave this image up. Give us the basic rundown. If you're completely new to Aurora and you were standing next to our tripods, what would you tell us to do with our cameras in order to capture this moment?
Okay, so for the basic shots, you really don't do too much different than what you already do for like single image exposures. I always tell people to start at, ISO 6400 f2.8 in about 10 seconds, 10 to 15
So
seconds.
up to 10 seconds even, because I was trying to avoid too long when
Yeah,
I
no,
captured
that's
mine.
that's the thing. Like if you really want to catch some of the pillars, you
So
want to
these
you want to
spikes
drop it.
right
See,
here.
like I find that like 8 seconds tends to work pretty good.
Okay.
Um, and then since this whole weekend it just was ongoing for so long, I played around with a lot of different settings and options. Um, this shot is actually a blend with a long exposure foreground, so that way I can knock the noise down, and then with a shorter exposure sky. So it's like total opposite of what you would normally do.
Yeah.
Um, like you do the long exposure shots on with a tracker for the sky, but that's like an 8 second exposure, and then the ground's like a minute and a half.
So you did capture the foreground in front of you on a different setting than the sky.
Yeah, for this particular one, there's a couple of them. Like the first one we showed, that was just a single exposure shot. So I have a good uh, combination of a lot of different things that I tried.
Right on. Let me go ahead and pull up some of the chat as we're getting some hellos and some questions. So while you have this setting, Avesta says, "Hey," and Jim asks, "Are you using a Star Glow filter?"
Oh no, I'm not.
And I think that was in relation in
Yeah, that
asking
one.
about this
Yeah,
is the
that one
nice.
I
Oh,
added
whoops!
it in for effect,
You
just
did
in
add it
post.
after in post to give it a little bit
Yeah,
of a glow around
just
these.
to pull out
Ah,
Orion a little bit more. I think Kirk was talking about. I think he's working with somebody to actually get a filter to try out to do something like that. So we'll see if that materializes.
oh man, that's awesome. Olaf Olson has joined us. Everybody, Olaf is my buddy out of Faroe Islands. You guys can follow Olaf. Olaf, what was your Instagram? Put it up here on your link so they can follow you, because Faroe Islands has been. I don't know how much you have tourism right now, Olaf, in the Faroes, but Faroes was that my home to see Aurora for the first time spectacularly. I saw faded one in the United States that I didn't realize was Aurora. I saw the top part of pink, and it was on the bottom of my horizon in southern Utah, and I thought there was some car with its taillights on. I literally thought it was nothing to do with the sky. It was just local light pollution, and it wasn't. It was Aurora that night. And then I saw a faded green band that looked like a cloud in Iceland, and it was just like, oh, wow, that is Aurora. But my favorite and best first experience of amazing Aurora was with Kathy and Rhonda, where Kathy did say that we did high five each other because we were seeing that so excited. It was moving in front of our eyes. When you were
It
looking
is.
at this
It's
Aurora that night, did you see much movement?
Yeah. When you start getting to these G level events, so like KP5 and above, you'll see it.
Oh man.
It's pretty apparent.
So when we were looking at in Aurora Faroe Islands, we had more distinct shapes in this, and as I see in this image, it seems like it's a whole just glow. But these bands of white light right here probably indicate the motion was happening right there. The ribbon was
Mhm.
sparkling and moving on you. How much
And it
naked eye vision did you have on this?
I could make the pillars out the whole night. And what was interesting about this event is it morphed all night long. So you have like the big pillars like this, or it would be like more of a glow. But then like the first image you showed,
Yeah,
that was actually pulsating.
let's go back up
So
to it.
it actually like the very top where that green is up in the top, that was actually lights pulsing, and it was just like it was really really cool, and that was around 3 a.m. ish, whereas those other shots were like around 11 p.m. to midnight. So just between that and here, it just shows you how much this can change throughout the night.
Oh, yeah. Were there any setting differences that you did here to tackle this aurora?
That was about 10 seconds at a high ISO. Probably actually I think I pushed it to like 8,000 on that one.
Okay. When it comes down to nailing the shot, what are the challenges that you run into?
Well, the biggest challenge is it's like all night stuff is focus. I even how many years I've been doing this for a couple of years now, and focus still can be an issue. Um, so that's the hardest one. And other than that, just figuring out what you want to take a picture of, because like you get kind of overwhelmed when you see stuff like this, and then you kind of like, well, I'm just going to take pictures. Then you forget to kind of incorporate some of your landscape elements.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, you told us about it on the podcast months ago, where you had the 23 straight nights of Milky Way, and during that time, you captured some. No, I was right after your 23 straight nights of chasing, right? And then you
Yeah.
went into your Aurora chasing. So when
Yeah.
you captured those images during that stretch there in August, how many nights in a row did you go?
That was actually 3 days I was gone, because I started over in Sleeping Bear National Lakeshore, which is in the Lower Peninsula. You can kind of see it on that map there
Is it
'cause
over on
it's
this side, like the left
uh
side?
to the right,
To the right, over here,
so below the bridge.
by
You see
Mackinac
where
City?
yeah, see where actually it's below that. See where it says Traverse City
Traverse
over that direction.
City. I see it now,
And
yeah.
yeah, so I started over on that side because the weather forecast was looking better.
Gotcha.
But then it changed because it always changes in the Midwest. So I started there and then drove from Sleeping Bear Dunes all the way up to Pictured Rocks for the following night.
For the following night. Just a quick 4 hour, 8 hour drive?
4 to 6, something like
Four to
that.
six. So up in this area as you're going around in August, great conditions. You've done it in the winter in the snow. All these roads
Mhm.
get plowed?
Yeah, the main ones do, but some of like when we start talking about the workshop, I have contingency plans built into it because a lot of Pictured Rocks, the roads up there are not maintained in the winter. They turn into snowmobile trails. So some of the areas we may not be able to get to if it snows a lot.
Gotcha.
But I have contingency plans put in there to areas that are accessible without
So
a snowmobile.
yes, good. Fantastic. We'll talk about that at the very end. So to remind you, those of you who are hanging out with us right now, we want to give you guys some instruction on doing Aurora photography. In fact, please hit me up. In fact, this chat room right here on the left, you can't see me right now. Let me go ahead and turn off my display and turn myself back on. Hello. It'll come on here in a second, I hope. Right now, it's completely black. You can't see me at all. Well, who cares? Just show her picture. So you're hearing my voice. This over here on the chat, hit me up in your chat with an all caps question. You guys have specific technique, process, workflow questions that you have for MaryBeth about Aurora, hit us up with a question in all caps. Give me that all caps question so we'll make sure we nail it in the Q&A. Otherwise, I'm going to keep thinking of questions for you and posing them to MaryBeth. Right here looking at this image while we're waiting for some of those questions to pop up, I want to ask you, when you're dealing with the water, you get the color in it when you smooth it out. You mentioned already that you did a 1 minute exposure on the other one. Did you also do a 1 minute exposure in this area?
Yeah, I did because I
Okay.
wanted more detail on the rocks.
And
And and it's funny because I've been using less and less of the low level lighting lately. I've just been doing really, really long exposure foregrounds.
absolutely the same perspective Eric Benedetti has. I think he's done with low-level lighting and artificial lighting altogether. I still
Yeah.
like it in certain situations, but when you see this much and you don't have to make, take away distracting elements by focusing light on a subject that's next to the distracting elements and making the eyes go to that subject, everything from frame to frame is great. Nothing is overpowering the greatness of the image above. And just seeing, because of the 1 minute exposure that you blended in with the sky shot, now you've got the color bringing back all that was above down below. And when you're there in person, all of that comes into play in your eyes. You see all that story in just a couple seconds of looking.
Yeah.
And Argus asks, what does she suggest for a color balance? Like, what is the K setting for you for your Kelvin?
I'm trying to. I do shoot it a little cooler. These are around like 3,800, whereas Milky Way is more like 4. And then I will mess with it in post if need be.
Do you notice what you end up at the end in your typical post processing?
Oh, say that one more time.
So your Kelvin, where does it end up in the end as you're post-processing and white balancing? You probably bring it to a different number. Do you notice where you end up at?
It's always in that range.
Within 4,000?
38 to 4, yeah.
Do you go up above 5,000 ever?
Not lately.
I
can't think of a single instance yet.
Well, real quick, guys, I want to point you to something because in the chat it mentioned above that Kirk Keyes, he's the managing editor of a site called MilkyWayPhotographers.com. If you aren't already on it, I would be a fool to not point you to it right now. This is the site for Photog Adventures, and Kirk Keyes has been – I'm moving you all over the place, MaryBeth, by the way, trying to get you out of the way.
Okay.
This website has information for Astro plus Milky Way, focusing on Milky Way photographers. Obviously, we are all obsessed with the comet, and you've got MaryBeth's Neowise over the Mackinac Bridge, but it's W on Google Earth, but the C when you write it. Is there a reason?
So Mackinac City is spelled with a W,
but the
Mackinac Bridge and everything else is spelled with a C.
I see. Gotcha. Okay. That's why I'm getting confused. So then she has an article on here that I'm going to be featuring in the YouTube channel where she was completely flamed for this image right here. Just completely eaten alive for faking a shot that she did not fake. It was 100% real. So check that out at MilkyWayPhotographers.com. And this week is the Perseid meteor shower. So check out Kirk's article about getting ready to photograph here tomorrow night, the next night, and the next night. We do have moon coming up around 1 and 2 a.m. So if half of your night will have a moon, 50% illuminated, but it's still a fantastic time to capture the Perseid meteor shower. So get out there. Hashtag no blue Milky Ways, Kirk says. That's Roger Clark mentioned. So we have 2 questions coming in. First, we'll start off with Cheryl. And Cheryl's question is going to make us go through your entire process. She wants us to have, she says in her words, can you give us a brief rundown of your post-processing workflow? When you're handling post-processing for Aurora, what do you do?
Okay. let me relive this for a second. There isn't too much that I do differently from this versus Milky Way. I think maybe the difference is is controlling the highlights more, because you can work with the auroras and you can work in the color channels and bring out some of the colors a little bit more. And then it's basically controlling those highlights in the highlight channel. Whereas like Milky Way stuff, I tend to bring all those down and then bring the shadows up and then adjust accordingly. And with this stuff, I will play with that a little bit more. But other than that, I do less dehaze on these and less clarity because I kind of like the soft look. Now, obviously, if you're somebody that doesn't care for that soft look, by all means, play with those channels more. But I've been on this kick where it's more like I like that dreamlike quality of it being a little softer.
Is that your glamour glow that Kirk bugs you about?
Yeah, I use that sometimes too. I don't actually, this particular one you have up, I actually tracked this one. So it's really, you can see what tracking does. So that's a minute-long exposure and see how it just loses that sharp, in the pillars there.
Yeah.
It loses that. It blurs it. So it makes it more of a dreamy type image. And I kind of like that for this particular one, so I just rolled with it.
So in summary, if you had to tell us in 2 sentences the steps to make sure you hit on your post-processing the tools you use, the steps that you make sure you go through, what would it be?
Let's see. So the main things that I use, the first thing is make sure to double, triple check your focus all the time when you're out in the field. I've been disappointed many times opening things up, and I'm like, there's a shot that I really liked last year from Marquette, and I can't use it because my focus was out.
Got to get that Carson Lumi loop action on. Yes.
I know. It's like, but post-processing, I use the highlight channel, the shadow channel, clarity, dehaze, and then I will play with the individual color channels themselves.
When you do your Aurora, do you mess around with your Color Effects Pro at all with your Nick collection?
Yeah, I still do. I just like it, so I use it. But it based image, it kind of changes based on image. Like this one, I believe I used a glamour glow on it because I was going for that dreamier look.
And that Steve, I mean, Carol says it. The pickets on the Steve are amazing. It's a great shot. We have a bunch of
the tracking actually. I really liked tracking the Steve.
Stanley says he's about the same way with full frame. It's possible to get a great foreground image without artificial lighting. Talking about the artificial lighting topic, Rob Freeboro. I wonder how he wants to pronounce it, man. Sorry, I'm adding syllables or I'm taking too many away, depending on how I say it. But he asked, do you have a recommended lens? Will a Canon RF, like 15 to 35 focal length f2.8 be sufficient?
Yeah, I'd say so. I used for most of these. This was a Nikon 14 to 24, so it falls right into that.
Awesome.
I would say that would work for just fine.
And Deb,
wide angle kind of helps because then you can get the whole scene in.
And in this situation with the Steve showing that cairn of rocks is awesome. And this is another one or the same one we saw in the other image where you didn't build the cairn, or did you build this one?
Oh wait, how did I do this one? It's tracked
cairn. No, the cairn right there.
Oh yeah, I didn't build any of these.
They were already there. That's cool.
Yeah.
But you were just about to say that you tracked. I didn't catch on to that. So you tracked some of these Aurora shots on top of 10 seconds.
Yeah, so like I did a lot of tracking with the Steve because I ended up liking how that looked.
Oh, interesting.
So this was like a minute on the sky and then a minute and a half on the ground.
Okay, so you went away from your 10-second Aurora shot for the Steve to make sure it pops up and shows what it did. And man, it looks amazing. That's why it looks amazing. So I skipped some questions. Deborah DeMano says, does she capture in JPEG or RAW?
Always RAW.
Always
I don't
raw.
do JPEG.
She's like, I laugh at the idea of JPEG even.
I mean, it's fine, but like once you know the capabilities that shooting RAW does for you, it's hard to go back.
Oh, right on. And I feel you. I mean, it's what I do, Deb, too, is I'm calling you Deborah. Deborah, what I do is RAW and JPEG, so I have both when I'm scouring my images. But if I don't need to do that, I go all RAW all the time. Absolutely. Bob says, do you track the 1-minute exposures? And you just answered that you do. Well, Actually, no. You answered that you do for the sky, but for the foreground, absolutely not tracked.
Correct. Yeah, because it'll move. It'll just be blurry if you do.
And he asks, how does the movement of the Aurora affect the shot in those tracked images? Do you have, like in the Steve, I don't see much. It's funny, it hasn't actually had movement of the Aurora blur out here. Or
it kind of does. If you look on the horizon there, see how it's just all one green blob with like no real definition?
That would be actual definition on Aurora if it wasn't for a minute.
Like you might be able to see some pillars in that, which you don't see anymore. Now, I guess it depends on the situation. I actually have, I didn't give it to you. I did a 5-minute shot, a single image shot of just a rock and the Aurora and just to catch those star trails. And you could still see some of the pillars in it. So I guess it really just depends on what's going on. But most of the time it's going to blur it out. You'll get like just a glow instead of having that nice razor sharp pillars.
Let me zoom all the way out so I can do the change. So all of these shots with the pillars right here.
Those are all like 10-second or less.
And not tracking because you would lose that definition.
Correct, yeah.
Okay. And Deborah wants to point out, and it's totally fair because I think we also chuckled at the JPEG idea. I think it's because it's one of those things in Milky Way and a lot of photography or landscape. It's like JPEG or RAW. The question is just always RAW. And so it kind of makes us think like, no, I've never done JPEG in years. But she wasn't asking that as much as she was just saying, it doesn't really matter. If you do it in RAW, the Kelvin that you choose, you can always change.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't mean to laugh at it. I really didn't.
I do the same thing, so no
It's just how
worries.
I react sometimes.
Apologies for laughing at JPEG at all. But Deborah was just pointing out that we can easily change our Kelvin in
Yeah.
RAW, so it doesn't even
Yeah,
really
you
come
could.
to consideration. And the rest of Bob's, okay, we answered the rest of Bob's question. Robert, oh, he's just saying they have thunderstorms for the next couple days. So yeah, bummer. And so it looks like no new questions right there. So when you're looking at these images and all these different locations, these are all from the Upper Peninsula. This is UP photography right
Yeah.
there in Michigan. You don't have to go somewhere exotic, or you don't realize how awesomely exotic the UP is.
Yeah, I don't think a lot. It's kind of like a hidden gem right now because there's until it gets all over the internet. But
So we've mentioned a ton of settings, everyone, so far. And if you have questions for settings, please still hit me up over in the chat. Anybody using a Botnov mask other than Lonely Spec? The Botnov masks that we've used in the past for telescopes are simple slits in a you can cut the lines out themselves. You can use a Botnov mask on a telescope. When it comes to using on your camera, the only one that I'm aware of is Lonely Specs Sharp Star 2 that you can put on there, as long as you have lenses that can receive filters. You can't see me in my camera right now, but the camera that I have here on my desk is a 15 to 30 Tamron with a giant front element. So I had to get a separate filter holder, and then the big old 250 millimeter Sharp Star 2 was a bit expensive, and I never invested in one, and I've been using my Carson Lumiloop instead. So I've been achieving success without it. Have you ever used a Botnov mask at all, Mary Beth?
I haven't because I have the same type of issue with that lens. It has the big bulbous front end on it, um, so I just couldn't bring myself to invest in because the big one was quite pricey.
Yeah, exactly. So as you guys are sitting here hanging out with us, we are going to close up the live stream here very shortly, but just make sure you get our questions in right now. We're going to be live for the next 10 minutes. And in those 10 minutes, we just want to tell you about the hangout that you can do with Mary Beth and I right here. This is just the start. In fact, if you saw above Mary Beth's head, you can see this as Crater Lake still. Due to the fact that I have not completed the work on editing this page, in fact, you'll see Crater Lake and Secret Beach and Bandon. It's another workshop. But this is the beginnings of a workshop that Mary Beth and I are going to do together, going out to the Upper Peninsula this November 9th through 16th. Obviously, with coronavirus, when you're dealing with COVID-19, we have a 100% refund up until 30 days. So you don't have to worry about that. As long as we're able to go and the drive out there is working out, you guys can join us for a 7-night Aurora Photography workshop. And I want to emphasize that when we're out there on these locations, we're going to be capturing the sunset, waiting for darkness, capturing at darkness the Milky Way that we can see. It's not the core, as the horizon's down a little bit below the core is below the horizon a little bit, but it's still a big giant chunk of the Milky Way. In fact, you saw it right here. Where am I going? This direction? There it is. If I show you again the Milky Way and the Steve, this is the Milky Way that you can see up there. Despite, well, this is August, so probably a little bit more core showing than November will be showing, but very similar to this kind of tilted to the right northern hemisphere Milky Way that we can capture for the first hour, maybe half an hour, I think it is, as short as that when we're out in that area. But then we're waiting for Aurora. You said, when does Aurora get its most striking strength?
I think most of my favorite images are shot around midnight to 1 a.m.
Midnight to
around
1
that.
a.m.?
Yeah.
So definitely an opportunity to have Milky Way sunset, and then even better, on the horizon around 10 p.m. you were telling me Orion starts showing up.
Yeah. So there's plenty of options in case, because Aurora is notoriously non-predictable or unpredictable. So like I can't, as much as I would love to promise it to people, I can't.
Right.
So I'm trying to build in like other things we could do, so that way you still get something out of it. You still learn some stuff, and in all these settings you could transfer over to, Aurora when it does show up for you.
Yeah. Oh, I'm going to go to your Instagram after this real quick. I'm going to show them this page again and talk about how this will be the 7 nights. When we're out there, we're capturing the sunset. You'll get landscape photography in. Then you're going to get deep sky astrophotography. You can use my tracker, or you can use Mary Beth's, one of her 2 trackers, and use star tracking and learn how to do star tracking photography. So you're ready for Milky Way photography with the Star Tracker. And then on top of that, Deep Sky, Orion, doing Horsehead Nebula, doing other options inside there. We got Witch's Head, Horsehead Nebula. Is Pelican in there too? No, it's not in that area. It's just Witches.
Orion's just such a cool
Barnard's
target.
Loop. Oh man, everything on top of Orion. You got the Orion Nebula, Barnard's Loop, Witch's Head, Horsehead Nebula. Really brilliant, cool, detailed spots. Depending on how much you can zoom in and how much you can track, this is an opportunity for a lot of different types of photography, on top of being in a very dark sky location in a really cool place, hanging out in November, where usually we kind of put our night photography up for the year and come back in the spring. We don't have to hang up our night photography work. We can get out there and do more. And so we're going to have some fun doing that and capture all the aurora that the sun will bring us that week. So from November 9th, Monday, through November 16th, Monday, it's 7 straight nights of doing it. Plus, we will be driving you. So I was showing you this map right here. We will be driving you, picking you up at the Chicago Ord, and then driving you up as a group in 2 separate trucks. And so MaryBeth and I, 2 instructors, 8 people. We're 4-to-1 on instructors, as well as having a just completely carefree, only have to worry about your hotels and accommodations throughout the week as we jump around all the Upper Peninsula and enjoy really cool spots. So here's the thing, because I haven't finished this site, any one of you who are interested in signing up for it, the deposit is $750 to seal your spot, and then that's 100% refundable up until 30 days, and then the remaining tuition's due at that point. So all the way up until October 9th, you wouldn't owe anything more than the $700. If you're interested in joining MaryBeth and I enough that you know you can commit to it today, and since I don't have the site, just email me, aaron@photogadventures.com. Just email aaron@photogadventures.com. Say, hey, I want to do this, get me in. And for only $500, you can sign up today, and I'll remove $250 off of the final asking price. So you will just drop $250 immediately because Aaron King couldn't finish creating the website in time. I'm leaving right now to go to Escalante right after this live stream to join for a workshop down there. And so, didn't fit it in the schedule, and you're going to benefit $250 worth of it. So those of you today who are listening to this video, if you come into this tomorrow, I'm not going to be particular by 24-hour period. Just let me know. Send me an email if you want to join in. And let's go to her Instagram, because you got to see MaryBeth's Instagram of the... Oh, I'm not logged in on this account. Let's go ahead and go to Photog Adventures. I want to show you guys over here her Instagram, and since I'm actually going to be logged in to Photog Adventures Instagram, I can actually search. You got to see the lake, the waterfall, and MaryBeth, that waterfall shot. Shelby Diamond Star.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious which one you're talking about.
You don't even know off the top of your head an awesome
there's
waterfall.
There's a couple
Aurora?
of them that I posted recently, so.
Okay, then I guess I'm picturing Aurora above this, but it's Milky Way.
That's Okundikun Falls.
And that's in Michigan, Upper Peninsula lower?
Yes, it's in the Upper Peninsula. It's a 1.5 mile hike to get to. It is a cool spot. We could possibly work it in. I don't know how well it's going to be for like Aurora unless we have something really epic happen, because it's kind of down in a I don't want to say canyon because there's not really that much canyons up there, but you can kind of see, like, you can only see that part of the Milky Way. Like, you can never really see the core there because of how far like down it is with the tree line.
Man,
if that makes sense.
But it's amazing that you can capture something like the waterfall in the foreground perfectly with the Milky Way behind it. Typically, the stuff that has that kind of interest, you're above it looking south, and the waterfall falls down below you. It hasn't worked out for me in Utah. We don't have we're not famous for a lot of waterfalls anyway. And so it's tough to get something this awesome with right in front of you, doing its pillaring up and tearing all the different tiers of the water in front of you as your foreground leading up to the interest. This Aurora Photography shot right here is just gorgeous.
This is Bond Falls, and Bond Falls is a really spectacular spot.
Also in the Upper Peninsula?
Yeah, it's all in the UP.
So we could hit this one if we needed to?
We could. Yeah, it's we'll just put it out there, like, we'll have an itinerary, but I am totally open to changing it based on what goes on, like weather conditions, stuff like that.
Fantastic. So then when you're looking at this, everybody, and you see the detail of color that's happening in the Aurora Photography here, remember that this is just a star tracker. She had a lens, a simple, what, 7200? What were you using here?
This was a 70 to 200. Yep.
Okay, I guessed it right. 70 probably out at 70 in order to capture, or did you have multiple shots to get the waterfall in?
Yeah, I mean we're tracking, so it's multiple shots blended.
Okay, but it's the framing. Did you have to pano up at all?
Yeah, yeah, I had to do 2 for the foreground to get it all in, and then the sky. So
Okay.
it's a panel. It's a 3
So
image
as far
panel.
as the tree line in the sky, that's all in 70 millimeters right here.
Correct, yeah.
And that's how much
Yep.
you're seeing. You do the exact same thing on the Orion constellation. You're going to pick up Barnard's Loop. You're going to pick up the colors of Betelgeuse, that's yellow, versus Rigel, that is a bluish white. It's fantastic. There's so much fun that we can have with the gear that we're going to have on this workshop, on top of the original intent of Aurora chasing. So it's going to be a very complete workshop. I hope that we get some fun people to join us out there. And I can't wait. And Kathy, since I'll be going out there in November, you and I need to hang out the day or two before, with or without MaryBeth, before we do this. And this is another one, but it's also Milky Way. So you don't have an Aurora yet because you're facing south every time you're doing these
and that's the same
waterfalls.
waterfall. That's Bond Falls, but shot with a wider lens.
Gotcha.
Like 35 millimeter.
So you're kind of over here, that side, and over there. So I've been given some extra time. Oh, Deborah's asking, what are the dates for the UP trip? It's November 9th through 16th.
Yep.
So you would fly in November 9th. We'd pick you right up at the airport, and then we would drive everywhere for all our 7 nights and be back at the airport on the 16th.
And if you're wondering why we picked Chicago, it's because it's the easiest airport to get to. It's usually the cheapest to fly into, and there's really everything up in the UP is regional. So, I mean, you could be more than welcome to fly into Marquette, but it probably will be quite expensive from what I've seen. So we tried, so we tried to keep it simple with like using O'Hare.
Detroit's an option, but it's easier to go into Chicago.
Yeah, typically.
So, yep, all of that would be in there. Any other questions for Aurora stuff? Let's see if I can get my video to ever come back. If I turn off and go black. No, come on. How about opener with me? All black, but it's the Aaron King thing. Wow, it is not cooperating while the Zoom call is on. So I'm going to go ahead, go back to the IMAX screen where I'm showing you. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so you can see both of us, even though it is just my FaceTime camera. It's not the best version of me, but it is the greatest version of you over here. So
is it?
Kathy promises me the dime tour of Chicago, so that's awesome. I've been wanting to hang out with Kathy out in Chicago since 2017, and I haven't pulled the trigger on going out there. So, hey, my last question for you, MaryBeth, is when it comes to Milky Way photography, capturing a shot that you're so stoked about, and Aurora photography, capturing a shot that you're stoked about, what is it? Anything that you apply to each one different? How do you approach them? Is it more difficult one or the other?
They both have their sets of challenges. Being a star tracker person, I love using the tracker, but I find that I use it less on the Aurora stuff because I like to capture that motion or freezing that motion, which you tend to lose when you do the long exposure. So, but as you see, I'm not opposed to experimenting with the tracker on it, but I find that I use less of it for the Aurora versus what I use on the Milky Way stuff.
And so that makes it inherently easier to do Aurora.
Yeah, it does actually, because you can do single image exposures and walk away with something really cool.
I really should have pulled out my time lapse of the Faroe Islands one to get people excited too, because that's just in Aurora from there where you see it in the distance, and it got us giddy. Kathy, myself, and Rhonda were just so stoked.
It's hard to describe when you see it because it's just so cool.
Hey, Michael asks whether or not you do any tracking of the solar flares to know your timing.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about apps.
While we're waiting for more questions to come in, we're going to end this live feed, I would say, by 12:55. And right now it's 12:48. So let's go for 7 more minutes. Let's talk about the real challenge of Aurora, the weather hunting.
Yeah, I use a couple different apps. The big one I use, which you can download, is Space Weather. There's spaceweather.com, but they also have an app that you can download for your phone.
Space Weather.
Yeah, so I use that one, and then I use one that's literally just called Aurora. I'll bring it up here. I'll just bring it on here. So it's just, I don't know if you see that, but
Back it away from the camera a little bit and tilt it down.
It's just called Aurora.
It's a little visible.
and it's this one, it's not as detailed as space weather, but if you just want like a quick glance as to what the current KP level is or whatever, it pops it up on the screen. Space weather app. See if I can bring this up. So it does kind of something more like.
Man, that is just all white to us.
It's so bad.
I'm gonna show them spaceweather.com. I'm gonna overlap.
Yeah, if you bring up
real quick.
But it's more detailed information. So if you want to get a handle for what's like actually going on, that's the one I like to use.
I lost it completely. When it went over to the screen, it got lost. But here's spaceweather.com. If you look at it, it's full of information, books, and it looks like adventures and workshops on the right and stuff on the left. So when you look at spaceweather.com, where are you looking and what's your reference point?
Okay, let me bring up the website so I.
Yeah, it's true. I haven't shared the screen so that you can see what I'm doing.
Yeah. So space.
So while she's doing that, I want to show you guys this video. You're not going to see it with any sound, but this was out in the Faroe Islands, and it was just a fantastic night. We had an inversion of clouds, and with the inversion of clouds happening on top of the aurora, it was so hard not to be giddy, and I can't say enough. I was so stoked to see it like that.
Having the cloud layer is really cool.
There's Chuck Schumer talking in the ad. Let's go ahead and skip that. Senate Dems. All right, here we go. Full screen. This is the Aurora action that you can see off in the distance, and it was only a KP3. So you can only imagine how great it can get. And I'm still giving these slow titles because the music is interesting that way, but you're not hearing any of the music. So then this was the first night, and you can see how the moon is out on us, and so we're making it faded with the moon, but the traveling of cars in the distance, the ribbons going all over the place is so cool to see in person. So here's Sornfelli, and then the next night, which may or may not be included in this video, it actually isn't. Oh, what a shame. It was in the beginning, I think, of my asterism video, unfortunately. And so let me go back over to space weather. You talk about that while I pull up the correct video on my end.
Okay. So yeah, on the actual website, you'll go to, it's the left-hand column, and if you scroll down, it'll show you like what's going on. So it'll have like the planetary number. It'll have the planetary K index, and like right now there's nothing going on. It's a KP1.
Where's the planetary K index? If I'm on the left column, I'm not seeing anything saying planetary yet.
Yeah, you might have to scroll down a little bit.
Ooh, quite a bit, huh?
Yeah.
Coronal holes, August 10th. So there's a coronal hole coming today.
Yeah.
Or no, that's just reporting today.
Even though it says there's no significant ones, but
yeah. You know. So interplanetary K index, KP1's quiet right now. 24-hour max expected to be quiet.
Yeah, so it just kind of gives you a basic overview. And the other terms that you want to look at is what they call the BZ, and that's just it's another I always forget exactly what it is, but you want that to be south.
It currently is negative 0.1. South. Yeah,
which is hardly any. Like you want that number to be pretty, like -4, -5. I've seen some pretty good action at. It's kind of telling you how the magnetosphere is interacting with the energy coming in. So south kind of like, it's like catching that. So it's good. The more south that is, the better chance of seeing something will happen. So that's one of those numbers, the KP number. And then let me bring up the other one that I always look at is.
And while she's doing that, I'm going to throw up
solar wind and solar wind density. And that's on the app itself.
Okay.
Those numbers, the larger they are, the more likelihood of something happening. So I know you can't see anything on this, but
I'm like right now it says right now, so they can't see anything at all.
It says the solar wind speed is 331 kilometers a second, which is about normal. That's about what it stays. So it's pretty low. And then the solar wind density is like 0.91. You really want that to be pretty high.
Okay.
And what's neat about the app is it's kind of color coded. So like right now it's green, but as those numbers increase, it'll turn yellow and then red. So the more red it gets, that means there's something happening that you might want to pay attention to.
I'm going to zip back over to you. Looks like I have to go the long way. Oh, man. Here we go. Let's show MaryBeth again. Were you showing us the green app when you said that?
You can't see anything.
Okay,
it's
cool.
Super bright.
And
so.
know that when you come out with this on the workshop, you're going to get that kind of information. We're going to look at the apps. Like Kathy over here saying, I use Aurora Alerts when I was in the Faroe Islands, and they're fantastic. And I was using an app that says Aurora something. I got to pull it up to find it, but I won't do it right now. But there's a lot of apps to use, the websites, and learning the science of it in a beginner novice fashion. We will have MaryBeth give us some lessons on that while we're doing our workshop. And so,
yeah, that's the beauty of it, is like you really don't have to know exactly, the scientific processes that's going behind it.
Yeah.
You just got to know, like, generally the numbers that you're targeting. So
the BZ
like,
is
this needs to be
-4.
here.
I gotta go out.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It is quite it's fascinating, it's really cool, but it's quite technical, like when you start really reading into what all these numbers mean.
I can imagine. Well, thank you so much, MaryBeth, for getting on with me before I take off. This has been awesome to squeeze in this morning. Everybody, thank you for joining us. We haven't gotten any new messages that have come through, just a lot of comments. Oh, I haven't got her on there. Let's bring MaryBeth back up. There she is. We've got nothing new, no other questions pending. Those of you hanging out with us, thank you so much. MaryBeth Kiczenski, please thank her by going right now to ShelbyDiamondStar.com. Check out her website, see her photography, as well as she has an Aurora YouTube channel that she's starting, but she hasn't quite gotten ready yet with it, so we can't share it right now, but soon, please hit subscribe and follow her YouTube channel, because when you think about it, what's one night sky, night photography element that hasn't had a dedicated YouTube channel? And other than video time lapses of northern lights, I haven't seen a dedicated channel for photography and taking images of Aurora. And so MaryBeth is going to fill a void, and it's going to be awesome. She's going to be 50,000, 100,000 subscribers before the end of the year.
I'll try my best.
You're going to do awesome. So we got some nice Hey Stranger from Andy. Hey, man. And Jim B. Bye all. You guys stayed up late. Thanks for... Oh, actually, no. It's only 1 o'clock in the afternoon here. So it's not late out there in the UK. Fantastic. And Bryn, I owe you an email. So thank you guys so much for joining us. Check it out. Email me at aaron@photography.com if you want to take advantage of the $250 discount due to my laziness of not finishing up a website. But that will be up and ready to purchase your slot anytime here today or tomorrow while I'm working between the workshops. So I will get it up there. You guys can join us out for an adventure in the UP. And cheers, folks. I'm off chasing meteors. Yeah, get out there for the Perseids, guys. Enjoy the Perseid meteor showers. So have a good one, and I will say goodbye with a video and turn off the live stream. So see y'all.
All right, so I already have the EQ wedge on here. And that'll have your latitude adjustment knob and your altizimuth